Welcome, Habari Ghani, and welcome to Serious Sundays, the show that brings you current events from around the world, impacting the lives of Africans just like you and me and you. I'm your host today, Queen EB, and today we're going to be talking all about repatriation, what every diasporic African should know before you go. But before we get started with that, I'd like you all to welcome my co-host and co-founder, Elder Simon. Welcome, Elder Simon.
Greetings all.
And Queen Nene. Welcome, Queen Nene.
Grand rising, everyone.
Thank you. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Awesome.
Very well.
Wonderful. So we also have some special guests and hosts. We have a special guest host today. I'd like to introduce everyone to my friend Nkwani Ambe. He is a minister, FRC DDB and BA, is director of the Association for Cultural Awareness and initiator of the Ministry of Spiritology. He is a noted senior journalist in English-speaking Cameroon with over 16 years experience in regional Central West African media landscape. An active cultural consciousness social activist, he is currently based in Accra, Ghana, promoting diaspora, Sankofa networking, and reintegration as a representative of the US-based nonprofit Africa Advancing. He is an AAPRP activist and UNIA ACL visionary, a Garvey Nkrumah enthusiast. Please welcome Nkala Nkwani Ambe. Welcome.
Much respect, Queen. I want to give a lot of love to the panelists out there. It's a pleasure to definitely be here. Sincere.
Yes, and thank you. So we also have, as I said, several other guests today. So we have Molly Morris, who is the owner of Jaden's in the Gambia, originally from the UK. And we also have Amina Sarr, who is a farmer and owner of Amina A Soaps and Candles. She's currently in the Gambia, originally from the UK. And also Lamar Ramal, an entrepreneur located in the Greater Accra area. He is originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So it is customary before we get into and dive all into the business of today, we also, as we welcome all of you joining us, we welcome and acknowledge our ancestors. And so at this point in time, I'm going to turn it on over to Elder Simon.
Thank you. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, because without our mothers, we would not be here. In the Yoruba tradition and throughout Africa, and should be now throughout the world, it's customary for us to pour libation as a salutation to our ancestors. So in Yoruba, we say Omi Tutu, Ona Tutu, Ile Tutu, Ori Tutu, Tutu Loreye, Tutu Orisha, Tutu Egunmi, Tutu Bobo Egun, Ara Arun, Timblesi Olodumare. As we welcome our ancestors, but we especially call upon the uplifted ancestors, because they're our guides, our protectors. They were our providers when they were here on earth. They also were very skilled healers. So they've helped us to reach the point of where we are now. We stand with them, and we pray that they would stand with us, acknowledge us as their children. We pray that they would guide us on our roads and our paths, especially that they would help us to keep a cool head and a clear mind as we go about our day-to-day activities. We acknowledge that we're the same root from their roots and came from the same soil from which they've come. We're bone of their bone and blood of their blood. We pray that they would hear our sincere cries and pleas when we reach out for help, but we also pray that they would strengthen and uplift us so that we would be available for the next generation as they come about. We thank them for giving us everything that we've needed in terms of our health, our wealth, and our prosperity. And we pray that they would never forget us as we don't forget them, and we always honor them through the way we live. We thank them for being a part of our lives and let them know that we commit ourselves to them and to our family legacies, but not just those of our blood, but also those who have paved the way for all of us, because directly and indirectly, we're all related and we're all family. And it's time that we acknowledge that we know that we all come from the same source. So as we thank them for their presence and for being with us and being a part of this podcast that we're doing, we also thank them just for everything they've done with us throughout our lives and throughout their lives. We say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe,
Ashe.
Ashe, Asheo.
Shay.
Ashe.
Shay.
Thank you, Elder. So now I'd like to turn it on over to Queen Nene. She's going to take a moment to read our mission statement.
Thank you, Queen EB. Our mission, Sankofa African Cultural Centers, aims to educate people of African descent about historical African culture throughout the diaspora. Although that is our primary function, we also welcome all cultures and individuals who want to embrace, engage, learn, and add value to our mission.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So, one other thing we do, it is customary, we do honor we do honor our ancestors. So today's segment, Spotlight of an Ancestor, we are honoring Dr. Betty Shabazz. She's an American hero born May 28, 1934 in Pinehurst, Georgia. She was an American educator and civil rights activist. Dr. Shabazz was also the wife of Minister Malcolm X, and together they had 6 daughters. After Malcolm's assassination, Dr. Shabazz never remarried. In 1969, she completed her undergraduate degree at Jersey City State College. Shabazz earned her master's in public health administration in 1970. Afterwards, she earned her doctorate in higher education and administration at the University of Massachusetts. Dr. Shabazz accepted a position as an associate professor of health sciences at Medgar Evers College in New York in 1976. She worked as a university administrator and fundraiser until her death in June 23rd, 1997. Today we acknowledge the Queen Mothers, all Queen Mothers, and we acknowledge Dr. Shabazz's work and honor her legacy. Asheo.
Asheo.
Shayo.
All righty. So you can connect with us. If you'd like to call in during our topic and discussion time, you can call us at 1-800-814-3622. That is our WhatsApp number right there on the bottom of the screen. So please do call. We want to hear from you. We want you to engage with us. You can also post a comment, and your comment will be read live here with all of us. And moving on, we have some updates and announcements. So join us Sunday, May 29th for a special edition of Serious Sundays. Serious Sundays Marathon Fundraiser, where our theme is Ubuntu. I am because we are. Broadcasting live on virtually every social media platform. Please join us for this momentous event and an opportunity to support our organization by the gift of giving. We have tons of talent lined up, so please, please, please tune in. Please tune in. But you don't have to wait until the date. You can visit our website and donate today. We set a goal for $5,000 for the quarter. So please help us reach our goal. Go to www.sacclife.com and click on the donate button, and please give if you can. We appreciate you. Other announcements. So we do have a literary club called Hush Harbor. Hush Harbor uses literary works to enrich understanding and foster appreciation for diasporic contributions to the literary arts. So we meet the third Saturday via Zoom, and here we go. Scrolling across the bottom, you'll see the Zoom ID. Please join us. We have a lovely time there. I mean, the information that we just share and what we read and study, how we study together is just amazing. So please join us if you can. We'd love to have you a part. So before we get into our topic of today, you all, there was some disturbing news that I recently heard. So I don't know if all of you know or not, but Kevin Samuels, who's a controversial YouTuber, proclaimed relationship coach, gives advice on dating, mostly to our African American women or women in general. Sadly, Kevin Samuels passed away at the age of 57 in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe it was Thursday. It was pretty shocking how social media kind of exploded. I mean, yes, he was a controversial YouTuber, and often said some very, made some inflammatory statements towards women. And so some of the, I guess, how the news has been received, some people are saying some really sad comments about his passing, things of like he got what he deserved and the ancestors dealt with him. And it's just a really, really troubling. Anytime one of us in our community passes, it's not a time for celebration. I mean, it's a transition and ascension for most of us, for us. And I don't know, it kind of bothered me. I don't know. Nene, how did you feel about hearing this news? Did you?
Well, I was very shocked.
Yeah.
I only listened to him maybe once or twice because, the platform was very challenging for me. Actually, I listened to him when I was listening to someone else, and they were talking about how, he treats women and things of that nature. So I said, well, that won't be one of the channels I'll be watching because,
Right.
I was trying to figure out why women were calling him. In the after his passing, I also found out that about 75% of Black women were his subscribers.
Mm.
So, that was a whole nother, topic or whatever. And I'm very into like, things that go on in the community. So I listened to a couple of broadcasts, but in any event, I want the brother to rest in peace. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not we agree with him or not, just like you said, we have to give them the best going into the next round.
Mm.
And and trust me, he was very controversial.
Mhm.
Yeah, he had a lot of sparks going around for a few
Yeah.
years. I just kind of like, heard about him recently, so the last maybe month or so. And but it's always good to listen to. I find it's always good to listen to controversial people so that you can be educated about the other side. So that's just my opinion. I know that social media was on fire. So, that's my take on it. He
Yeah.
may rest, yeah, I just want him to rest in peace. And I wish, many condolences and sympathy for the family.
Yeah. I second that. I second that. I mean, again, I'm not in the business of tearing people down. One thing that sticks out, and it just keeps me playing in my mind because when I heard the news, I actually woke up yesterday, and that was like the what was trending, and I was kind of taken back because I was just thinking, wow, so young, so vibrant. He obviously had a platform, and it was communicating. And if no one wanted to hear what he had to say, he wouldn't have become as famous as he has
That's
been for
true.
his controversial statements. So
Exactly.
and like the sister said, the fact that most of his subscribers were Black women, obviously
Mhm.
there's, that's a whole nother discussion as to why it is Black women are signing up to hear what is, I guess maybe what somebody else's truths are or
Mhm.
whatever, but that's something else. I mean,
Yo,
but
Queen, can I come in and speak on it?
oh, for sure, yes, please.
Yeah, because what I realized, Mr. Samuels is someone who he actually had his YouTube channel for about 5 years. he used the first 3 years of that platform actually to speak to men. And his message was more of looking at the downside of the Black community and how men are not actually meeting up to the standards of what our women expect and what we should actually expect of ourselves. So he was projecting what he called basically a high value man mentality. You know, that Black men should focus on themselves, get themselves into a perspective where their image is built properly for the society. The women that they want, they can actually take them and take care of them. Because truthfully, Mr. Samuels is all about the Black community, Black men and women actually staying together and building their homes, you know, what we actually lost from the 60s. But unfortunately, you know, I think that there's a little bit of, you know, the Western or the white feminist agenda using Black women to a certain degree to kind of make them look at his message as being negative. Meanwhile, I mean, it was more of his delivery, perhaps, that might have alienated people. But I like what you really said, because in that delivery, what might have alienated specifically women was the fact that the brother was real. We just got to be honest with it. I mean, he said a lot of things that men sit amongst themselves and say that normally we know that we're not supposed to say in front of women, to just like you said, to give them the other side of the coin, what the men say on the other side. And it's truthful. I mean, you go into his comments, you have women who they followed his shows and were able to kind of rehabilitate the way that they were being misguided by the media into certain agendas to save their marriages. So I think that actually we need more speakers, not maybe necessarily giving the wrong delivery, but talking about these critical, hard aspects of things that are really just eating up our community. Because I'll be honest, as a journalist, I definitely do see that the Western media has an agenda to separate the Black man and the Black woman. I mean, there are countless ways I can actually give examples to it. And if we don't have speakers, both men and women, who are just going to be like, look, let's just take the bull by the horns and talk about this, it's going to allow our communities to be disintegrated. So truthfully, his spirit has spread out. We just hope that the positive aspects of it are what people are going to build on, so that we can actually build our communities back.
Yeah. Ashe. I heard that. Yeah. So any other comments from our guests? Feel free. I'm marinating on that one. You just hit me like boom, boom, pow. Like I don't know.
Right,
You know, I mean, I respect what the brother just said, and I get it. But a lot of people do not, for me, I always like the pod, like the duality of things, so I could perhaps see what's happening and get a view of what is really happening. He was pretty raw. I mean, he was just like, degrade women right on his platform, and I was like, I don't think this is what why would they call in? You know what I'm saying? Because we can, we get that every day just dealing with people. So why would you call into a platform? But again, everybody has different needs. I get it. And, for me, it was just, looking and trying to understand the plight of, of our people, the needs of our people. But again, I didn't watch him, specifically, but a lot of people were talking about him. The people that I looked at, they were talking about him, because they're regular bloggers or whatever. So, again, it's sad. It is a good thing that he brought up those things, and definitely a lot of people talked about his delivery. It was really not the best way to come out, but maybe that was his best way. And I'm not justifying anything, because nobody wants to be degraded.
Right.
Most people, in our community, they were like, did he really say that?
Right.
What?
Right.
Things of
Yeah.
that nature. So,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Again, I'm sorry. Maybe perhaps it was a lesson for him, because he was very he had a lot of duality within his delivery. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's boggling my mind is why are we going outside of ourselves to solve our own problems? Why do people feel like they need to hear from an outside person rather than going within, taking some time to get to know who you are and find your purpose? This is like a common thing. If it wasn't so, we wouldn't have these, talk show hosts and these the old school, the Jerry Springers and the, what was the other, Jenny Jones and all these things. People are going outside of themselves and to others to seek guidance on how they should live their lives or to put their lives on blast. So I don't know. I don't understand it. But again, I certainly, my condolences go out to the family. The brother has passed, he's transitioned. He definitely left a mark. Whether you want to say his legacy
Mhm.
was dangerous or it was good for the community or whatnot, he had a platform and he said what he had to say, and
Mm.
maybe it gives us, it settled with some of us, and we have to look at how we move in this world. It was about
Right.
relationships, but I mean, it goes deeper than that. So, anybody else have any comments or?
I liked what he had to say. I wasn't a big fan personally of Kevin Samuels, but um, what I learned from him was the importance of delivery, the importance of the words we use, because in this context, in the context of the conversations that we're having today, and you'll be having, in the following uh, shows after this one, it's not so much the message isn't as important as the delivery. So what he had come in. He was talking about the brothers first of all, as Brother Amber was saying, um, and with men in general, we're used to being held to account for our misdeeds, our misgivings. Um, Whereas in general, um, sisters are not, or ladies are not in general. So it's like the fact that he did that, and also the way which he did it, the how visceral his language was. It meant that it cut through the usual noise and din that stops us from hearing each other. So I listened to that and I think to myself, well, I'll make sure that when I speak, I'll speak truth to power, not with a bunch of apologies in between and so on and so forth, and be correct. As for his passing now, although it's sad that there are some people who are speaking badly of the brother, uh, that's kind of to be expected. I mean,
Right.
I'm over here. I have a small business. Um, None of my videos are talking about other people or downgrading anybody, but I still get negativity back at me. It just is what it is. So I'm not going to really kind of pay those people any attention that was speaking negatively about Kevin Samuels as I do about people speaking negatively about me. Um, as Black people in this system, we live in a system, we live in a world that is designed for us to go down, to be underneath, to feel pressure. So we don't have the time or the luxury to concern ourselves with the noise from haters and from people who are
Yeah.
upset about words that someone said before they passed. That's my own point of view.
Thank you, King, for sharing. I really appreciate that. Well, as I said, my condolences go out to the family, and I'll be thinking of our brother that has passed on, and as well as every the rest of our community. My love extends to all, right? Ubuntu. So, before we get into the topic of the day, I want to go and share a video. And again, I want to remind our viewers you can call in 803-814-3622. That's +1 803-814-3622. If you're in the U.S., outside the U.S., hit us up on WhatsApp, and we'd love to have you join in this conversation. So, before we get into our panel, our guest panel today, I'd like to play a short video, and this will kind of lead us into. Nope. Sorry, I guess I won't play that video right now. Let me work on that. But without further ado, let me go ahead and turn it on over to Ambe and Queen Nene. You are going to be asking our Q and or you'll be handling our Q&A session today. So have at it.
Okay, let's go ahead and dive on in. Essentially, do you go first or do I take it first?
No,
We say
you're
ladies first. All right,
Well, it
let me go
is,
ahead.
but you go ahead.
All
Go
right,
ahead, King.
all right, just giving my respects out there.
Thank you.
Since let me just dive into the way I was looking at it, because 2019 started something great on the face of this planet. Aside from the politics, really, we don't want to get into all of that. President Nana Akufo-Addo here in Accra, he declared the Year of Africa, returning it inspired the diasporic community, African descendants, to finally, I really want to say finally, start looking back across the Atlantic, looking back to the most solid solution to our existential problems on the face of this earth. And, essentially the idea of Sankofa, even though that's the name of what we are working on as a platform here, we know Sankofa from the Akan language, actually, it inspires that concept of going back and taking things that you left behind, looking back to your history and your past, going back for it. And all of that energy, all of that consciousness spread out in 2019 and has really led us to sit down today to look at this topic. People who are coming back, everyone who wants to get into the restoration of our people and building the African nation. In their repatriation, what should people actually really be thinking about before they go back? And, just to bring that topic in, I think that what is essential for us to always realize and think about is we should first look at it in the historical context of who we are as dominant melanated people. And I like to say dominant melanated people because we have a very broad categorization of who we are as far as people of the sun. And when we use the word Black or African American or Africans or African Caribbeans, it kind of compartmentalizes us and makes us forget that actually we went through the same process of disenfranchisement, the same process of enslavement, the same process of colonialism that broke our society. So when we start thinking about repatriation, when we start thinking about going back to Africa, that's where our mind and consciousness, I think, needs to actually start. We need to actually realize that we as a people are healing from a very deadly wound. And when we talk about the ancestors, from that first, the Portuguese took the first slaves from Morocco in 1441, actually, if you want to look at it, we want to quote some facts. From that period coming up till now, each man and woman who formed a child through that over 500-year process at last has become embodied in us. We are the ancestors of that traumatizing legacy. We have gone through that trauma. It's in our genetics. So when we start to look back to repatriation, we start thinking about going back, we're supposed to relink to the realization that we were torn from our lands, we were disenfranchised, our development process was actually derailed. So we come back into a consciousness of bringing ourselves through that 500 years to realize that where we need to go has to repair everything that has happened along that path, such that as we are getting into this situation, coming back into the continent, we'll start to actually be able to see the possibilities, see the shortcomings, see the circumstances, and feel it spiritually through the blood of our ancestors, to being able to realize that this happened to us and now we're re-healing it. And now we're actually going back to, like I said, take the bull by the horns, get into the continent and tear out all of that negative energy that has been left on the continent that has kept us from coming back all of these years. Now, I know it might seem kind of high to some people. I hope that it shouldn't. But when you get into that way of looking at it culturally, and then you get into the continent, your economic reality will automatically open for you. Your social reality, you yourself, you're going to have that heart that you want to go into the market, and buy your fresh food instead of maybe going into the shopping malls and stuff. You're going to actually feel that you have indigenously come back and you're a part of a heritage and something that you want to fulfill, as opposed to what I've been in Accra and seen. A lot of people do come back with a mentality that they want to be African Americans in Africa, and at times we see something like, like a little bit of segregation going on. And I want us to feel more like we're coming home. Everyone is coming home. We need to remove those labels that make us feel that we are other than who we are. And if we build on that mentality when we're coming back, I think definitely you'll just know what you will do. The ancestral spirit in you will actually awaken, and you'll just fit in.
Okay, so thank you for that, Ambe. Appreciate all that information. Again, I'm so glad to have you a part of this today's podcast. So I'll go with the first question, and this is for Molly. Molly, why did you choose to repatriate back to Africa, specifically the Gambia? I mean, did you consider other countries?
The reason I repatriated, you know, what it was, first of all, was that I was 100% fed up with living in the UK. There was nothing there that I enjoyed about that place. I didn't enjoy the weather. I didn't enjoy the people. I didn't enjoy the police. I didn't enjoy my teachers. I didn't enjoy school. There was nothing I enjoyed about that place. So what I wanted to do was to start again. And I wanted to look at somewhere where, you know, somewhere warm. I wasn't really too concerned as to where the place was going to be. But I was doing a speech on behalf of a group at the UNIA ACL back in London. And the conversation was about repatriation. And what I realized mid-speech was that there's a lot of people talking about going back to Africa, but not a lot of people doing going back to Africa. And so my thing was, let me spend this energy instead of improving the business for my boss and paying these massive taxes and bills to live in London. Let me take that money and that energy and bring it back to Africa. There was a friend of mine, simultaneously a friend of mine who was over here. He was building a school in Gambia, in a town called Lamin. And he had asked me to help him with a fundraiser back in the UK. So I helped him with that, and through that he invited me over to Gambia. So I came over, and even though I'd already been to Nigeria, I've been to Uganda, and I've been to Kenya, and I felt like I have a feeling of what Africa's like. I realized that Gambia was very different, very special, very unique. And so I made the move to come over and take my place here in Gambia.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Lamar, same question. What was the reason why you chose to repatriate back to Africa for one, and you chose Ghana?
Actually, Jamaica was my first choice. I lived in Jamaica for 2 years when I was 10 and 11. Then once I left the US like 3 or 4 years ago, I decided that I was going to move somewhere in Africa. Then there was supposed to be Gambia. Then I got into a relationship with a Ghanaian, and we went back there. And things were shaky at first, but I figured it out. It's tough transitioning from it seems like a different galaxy coming into a whole new world, different language, different food. Everything is different and not operating the same as where it is, how it is, where you come from. But shit, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he muted himself. Amina, we'd love to hear
Hi.
from you. Hi,
Oh, no.
beautiful.
Hey. Hi. How are you guys? Hope everyone's okay.
Yes. So why did you choose to move to the Gambia?
Well, my parents are from the Gambia. My mum and my father. I was born in the UK. I was born in Birmingham. So I have a lot of ties in the Gambia, and we had my mum and dad acquired like 2 farms way back in the 70s. And also my mum, she started her own juice factory around about 18 years ago. So since then and now, I've been back and forth, UK and the Gambia, looking after several businesses over here. But last year, November, I decided to actually pack up everything and make my way home because, as Marley said, I was sick of the UK, the weather, working, etc. You know, and I knew that I could do a lot more back home in the Gambia, and also, you know, starting my own soap and candle businesses as well in the Gambia has helped me a lot. You know, just to know how to actually run a business, because this business what I'm doing now is actually my sole business. So it's going, you know, very well. And the reason I'm on this platform as well, which you invited me, to let other people know not just the good and also the pros and cons about, you know, coming to the continent, you know, which I hope I can be of like little help, you know, in anybody's journey.
That little light, that little shimmer of light to help others on the same journey. Well,
So,
we
Amina,
certainly.
let me ask you.
Exactly.
Amina, can I jump in and ask her a question?
Of course you can.
Can I ask Amina a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay. I would actually, because you pointed out one of the domains that I actually really encourage individuals coming back to Africa to really look at agriculture, because I mean,
Okay.
all of us who are in, there's a lot of land and it's not actually being cultivated and taken advantage of. So I'd like you to speak a little bit on some of the you know, realities, some of the calculations. How did you have to prepare to leave the UK to come back to Gambia and actually set up the agriculture initiatives, the soap initiatives, the activities that you've actually been able to set up to sustain yourself? Because a lot of people too, when they want to come back, they want.
Okay, can I?
Yes, please. He got cut off, but yes, please. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Yeah. I have to say, me and my family are very lucky because, as I said, my mum and my father invested very, very early, back in the 70s when they acquired land in the Gambia. So we have two farms in the Gambia. We have one in a place in Gambia called Brufut. Marley's been there actually. He's been there one time. And also that one is about I think it's about, is it Marley, maybe 100 by 100? That one actually, yeah, we actually farm, for example, fruits and vegetables mostly in that farm. But we do have another farm which is across the river. That one at the moment we're actually cultivating cashews, but we're looking to go into livestock in like chickens, rams, and goats going forward. As I said, that one is about 500 by 500. That's a very big plot of land, and I've just finished putting a borehole into that. But I think later on we'll be able to put another borehole into that plot of land as well. So me personally, I'm very fortunate to have this land, you know, given to us by my mum and my father, because this is what they did soon as when they left Gambia. Like, for example, as I was saying, my father left the Gambia in 1948. Since he left, he worked very, very hard to make sure he had everything back home. He used to send money home, you know, starting to like, you know, farm the land, etc., and also build houses also. So yes, me personally, I'm very fortunate in that way that I was acquired that before I actually came here, you see. So yeah, but it's a very doable thing you can do when you get to the Gambia, but it's a lot of hard work. But what I advise is people to, you know, get in contact with people who actually do it and actually visit farms as well, which is a very good thing to do. Then you can see what you can offer as well. So I think that's very good advice to do as well.
Thank you so much. I think we have another question from Queen Nene.
Yes. Hi. You know, and I forgot to say Happy Mother's Day too to everybody on the panel, to you and yours, and also to everybody on the social media platforms. I completely forgot I was in the
Thank
Twilight
you.
Zone,
Thank
but
you, sis.
very much. Okay. Oh, wow. That was a powerful question, and the answers were even more powerful. My mind is like going into a different realm just listening to the answers. So informative. Second question. What are some of the misconceptions or misrepresentations Westerners have about Africa? And I'm going to go on mute. Go at it, guys. I don't know. You want me to choose someone or is it just to go for
Choose
all?
Go ahead and choose.
Uh, Let me see. I'm trying to see. I don't want to
Marley.
say your name incorrectly. It's hard to
Ambe?
see. Yeah, Ambe.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to start with you. Go ahead. And then you can take it from there.
Okay, come back on that question. You said I'm
What are
having a
some
little
of the
network.
what are some of the
Queen Nanny,
misconceptions?
can you come back on that question?
Can you hear me? Maybe there's a delay with him. I think it's a
Yes, that's what
delay.
I'm getting some delay. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Are you just let me know when you're okay and I'll read it again.
okay, no, just go ahead. Let me not interrupt you so that you can complete the sentence without an
Okay.
interruption.
Yeah, technology is crazy. What are some of the misconceptions or misrepresentations Westerners have about Africa? Was that good? Did
Right?
you?
No, there are way too many,
Yeah.
because me myself, I grew up. Yeah, no, I got it clear. I got it 1-on-1, 5-on-5. Truth. I mean, we could go back to Coming to America, and Eddie Murphy tried his best to give a positive image in a way by representing royalty. But I do believe there are some misconceptions from movies like that, and the whole Tarzan and Western media and literature itself has always portrayed Africa like the jungle, literally. Like, growing up in the U.S., I had kids calling me African booty scratcher back in the 80s. There was a lot of ignorance, and people thought that if you were over in Africa, you probably had friends that were monkeys, and kids will ask you if you used to race cheetahs and tigers and stuff like that. So the Western media has really portrayed Africa like it's underdeveloped, like we were over here swinging on trees with monkeys that were uncivilized, essentially. And that is definitely not the case. I mean, brothers like Akon have come through and showcased countries from down in South Africa, Johannesburg, here to Accra, Kenya. I mean, there's so many urbanized centers on the African continent that show industrialization, that show commercial activity, that show that there is an economic possibility over here. And it's more of, you can't feel it, you can't really see it until you come. And when they take and make movies like Black Panther, I mean, it was inspiring. But if you look at the background of the Black Panther movie, it's based on a comic book text. The whole idea of Wakanda is even fictional. So when you watch such movies, you try to imagine that the Western media is trying to create this impression about Africa that we can't be technologically advanced unless they imagine it in one of their comic books. So there are always these indirect ways that they're trying to attack the perception of how we should be looking at ourselves, to think that if we're not reliant on the Western capitalism, if we're not always reliant on the IMF loans and WB and all of that, we can't take ourselves forward. But the reality of the situation is that here on the ground, you have individuals who they have their private initiatives that they're trying their best to meet their day-to-day reality. They have to deal with the government complications of what imperialism leaves on us. And at the end of the day, if you do come into the country with an intention to really do something for yourself, then you'll be able to see through those misconceptions of what is actually there. Because, I mean, I like to always look at it like this. They make us look at Africa like it's broken, like nothing can be done here. But the irony of this reality is that when you come into the continent, you do see a lot of Caucasian corporations here. You do see a lot of Caucasians setting up companies, visiting, tourism, multi-corporations, banking institutions, Stanbic, all of that. So if other foreign countries, Caucasians, Lebanese, Indians, Arabs, Chinese, Asians, all can build in Africa, why are we accepting the projected reality from the media that Africa can't be built in, that it can't be developed, that it's backwards?
That's right.
See it It's like they're actually trying to keep us from going to what is ours so that they can exploit it. And until we start to see through that ruse, through that illusion, we're not going to want to develop and take and build what is ours. It's ours. All that wealth is ours. I mean, if I tell you the wealth in Congo, uranium, all of that, the fact that Congo is always in civil wars because they want to keep warlords in those areas where they can illegally mine. It's intentional. The West is actually even creating this havoc so that a negative image can be created about ourselves. And we need to become conscious to this and realize that it's a ruse. They've been doing this ruse for 500 years to make us not want to take what is our wealth. And when we see through it, it's already started. This is what we're doing right now.
Well, listen, that was a great answer. I think that we need to have a class about this seriously, because
it's serious. It's serious.
It's really serious, because there are a lot of misconceptions. But what I see here in New York, just alone in New York, is that more people are becoming conscious, but there's still so many that are left behind. Listening to some of the videos that we were assigned by Queenie B really opened my eyes, because as a child I always had that connection. I mean, really, as a child, like 9 and 10 years old, I always had that connection with myself. Just had to go through the journey of really knowing who I was. So but yeah, we still have a long way to go, but those videos were very encouraging, because a lot of them came from New York, and other parts of the United States. So that was a excellent answer. And I think that we just have to keep moving forward, keep sharing information, you can't tell people what to do. You can only just be on platforms like this and just let people know. And they have to, again, we have to look within and say, is this where I really want to be? Because everybody's not going to want to repatriate. Some people are like, look, I'm good where I am. I don't want to go to Africa. And it doesn't have to be a negative reason why always. It's just, whatever. But if you really start looking within, because I'm listening to myself as I'm listening to this particular podcast, and I'm saying, wow, I always felt like I wanted to just go visit. How would it feel if I really went and made that move? So that's something that I have to seek within. So thank you for that, Brother Ambi. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Brother Ambe. Really do. I was just sitting here thinking, and recalling my own childhood and the things that you see on TV about Africa. And it was always a National Geographic, it was always a safari. Never that Africa is a very well developed continent with over 54 countries. So, I mean, and having just visited myself within the last 6 months for the first time, I remember just when I came off the airplane and out of the airport, just feeling like overwhelmed, like, wow, I'm here. I didn't, my plane didn't fall out the sky trying to get here. But then once that passed, it was just kind of like I was taken back, because everywhere I looked, I mean, I saw people that looked like me. I mean, it was just saturated, and it was just, I can't even recall. I might have seen a few different people from another, nationality or whatnot, but I just felt like, okay, this is right where I belong. I met some wonderful people. I had an amazing time, and I can't wait to go again. But does anybody else have anything to share, or any opinion or comment to share on, how the Western literature and or misconceptions that we all might have had prior to our actually experiencing being there on the continent ourselves?
Yeah, there's some misconceptions that go on over in the West. For example, there's two movies I can think of. One's called Carrying On Up the Jungle, and another one is called Zulu. So if Carrying On Up the Jungle, what you had was a bunch of intrepid explorers who go to the jungles of Africa, as Abby was saying, jungles of Africa. And they met up with these people who had bones through their noses and ran around with spears and tried to cook these white people for their dinner. That was the premise of the whole movie. Now, with there being no other balancing out of that story, a lot of people actually believe that's what goes on over in Africa. With Zulu, we had two intrepid explorers who go out into the wild plains of Africa, and they're surrounded by these hordes of angry black people, and they use their wits and intellect to be able to destroy them. And we know that doesn't actually happen in real life, but that's a story that they try to provide the West. So there's that side of it. But there's another side that we don't really speak about too much, and that is those of us from the African diaspora who speak of coming to Africa, but have not been to Africa. So we always are looking forward to making that step over to the motherland. A lot of people say coming home, but for me personally, it felt more like I went home to a house I used to live in, and there's some other people there now. And the people who are living there now don't recognize you as being a part of that home. Does that make sense? So you kind of have to spend some time acclimating yourself to your environment. As we come, especially like if you go to say Tanzania, for example, Tanzania, Kenya, Botswana, that kind of area, everyone is speaking Swahili. And as you go in speaking with your English language and your English accent, they don't take too kindly to you speaking to them, in English. That is a symbol or a signal of an oppressor class, and they're not having any of it there. So you learn very quickly that you need to learn the local language and the local dialect. As small as it is, learn to use what you know. Over here in the West, over here in Gambia, I found that there were a lot of things that I'm used to are not here. And so, for example, I'm being brought up in a Christian country with a lot of Christian influences on the way I think, on the way I view things, without me even knowing. So if something is tiresome, I might go, "Oh Lord," and not even think that means anything, but it does. So I've learned that actually I still have work. I may be here and I'm still learning. I'm still having to learn what my job is over here as an African person, newly returned back to Africa. At the same time, I had to come to the realization that if I come here with open arms saying, "Oh, I'm home here, hi brothers and sisters," many people here don't have that same kind of affinity with me as a non-Gambian. So I'm still learning, and people who are here are still trying to spend time getting to recognize me as someone who deserves to be here. So there are these kind of misconceptions from both sides.
Thank you, Brother Molly, for that. It's good to know that, we have to look at that as well. What are we stepping into? We may have that connection, but you're going to a whole new world. I mean, it's like not, because even when you go to another part of the five boroughs here in New York, it's like a culture shock for many. I mean, for me, it was just, moving into a different borough. But when you're going to a different land and you already have a spiritual connection with that land, and then when you get there, it's like, wow, what next? You said, we have to learn a new language and things of that nature because African Americans and now I'm starting to learn that all of that is colloquial conversation with African Americans, blacks or whatever. I'm just who I am. You know,
Right.
I'm a female goddess and things of that nature. But the thing is that it's so important to really know what you want to do, and we have to look within. Do I really? And even for some Africans coming here, you know what I'm saying? It's difficult. I've dealt with, many cultures in my career. And the thing is you just be who you are. A lot of people, I notice that, they come here and they have certain um, cultural, not just cultural, but just certain things that they're used to. And when they come here, they're like, wow, this is really different. It's really strange. So either way, going back and forth, it's very challenging. But the thing is that the challenge that you want to take? So I give you, all of you, kudos for taking that step. And and being able to know that I still have to learn. I'm still adjusting, even if it is 20 years or 10 years or 1 year or 6 months. It's something that, it's something that you want to do, and you're still moving forward. So I appreciate all of your stories. Thank you so much for that. And Amina, please share your story with us on that question.
I mean, yeah, I can share something. As I said, my parents are from the Gambia, but I was like born and raised in the UK, in Birmingham. So yeah, I'm finding it hard to adjust as well. But as you said, that goes with like businesses living here. There's quite a few challenges in here, but I don't think I want to be anywhere else, because anywhere in the world there are challenges. But being in Africa, being in Gambia, there are challenges regarding family life, dealing with people, regarding businesses and things like that. And of course, um, what we have to appreciate as well, the pace of life in Gambia, in Africa, is very much slower and more laid back than it is in the West. And that's one thing I think a lot of people should take heed of when they come over to the continent. Pace of life here is very, very slow. Even the business sector of, life as well, is very, very slow compared to the West. And it can be very daunting and frustrating for people who actually come here and thinking things can be done like very, very quickly, as we're used to. And it's not like that. So I think people should take that in consideration as well, that we have to go, as they say, yeah, go with the flow. Business is business, of course, but being in the continent, things are, the continent, but in Gambia, it's a lot more slower here. Miley can, he knows what I'm talking about because we're both in Gambia. So yeah, just think about that. Don't think things can be done in a week. Where it might be done in 2 weeks, but it will be done. So just that's one piece of advice I give to anyone coming over. In Africa, in Gambia, it's much slower than the West. So that's all I
Patience.
can say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
patience. I think
very
that's
much so. You
so,
need that.
yeah, that, I mean, I was only there for a short while, but what I
Yeah,
loved about it was I didn't feel the sense of being rushed. And I
exactly.
prefer it because being an African American and living here, it's always the hustle bustle, go go go. But there, I don't know if it was just because I was on vacation, but really not. But I just enjoyed just going with the flow. I mean, I
Hmm.
love rising in the morning and going to bed at night, and knowing that I was going to encounter something new. I mean, I was just in awe of that, but that was just my first experience. I loved what Molly had said uh, about people saying, "Hey, I'm going to go one day. I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to go to Africa." And I was one of those people, but I made a conscious decision to, because I didn't want to be that person that say I'm going to do something and not do it. I booked my ticket before I even had my visa because I wanted to force myself to get what I needed to get in order to go. So once I had the monetary commitment, it was what it was. It's like, no, you gotta follow through, because you just wasted $1,500 if you don't do it. So, for me, I had to play that little trick with myself, because otherwise I would have just been one of those people that say, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. One day I'm gonna go. No, I went, and I'm going again. So thank you for your comments. I have another question. We're talking a lot about going and the beauty of Africa and the misconceptions. Are there any drawbacks? Are there anything that you didn't expect negative, whether it be, anything that you can share?
No, I can't. I can't think of anything. You know what? When I was back in the UK,
Actually, let me throw out a question there, Queen, because I wanted to ask Morris or Amina this, because here in Ghana, it's related to what she just asked, and still in this context of some of the cons and pros that we face back. In Ghana, they pay rent for a year or 2 years. And I don't know if that is the same situation out in Gambia, because I know when our brothers and sisters are coming back, normally they should be prepared to reintegrate and know the residential situation that they're going to have to get themselves into before they can actually even feel that they're on the ground. So I wanted to ask you all, do they have the complications in real estate that generally I do see that we have here in Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria too? It's like 1 year, 2 years, and you got to make sure that you're giving the money to the landlord and all of those realities. Can you speak on that a little bit in that country?
Marley, you go, because I don't rent.
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you need a year's rent up front. So you could imagine here you could spend around about, say, between $300 to $500 a month, and you'll need the year's rent up front before you go. So it could be very costly when you as a beginning, entrance into staying over here. Yeah. But the question that Sister Evie was asking, was there any negative I could think of about moving over here to Africa? And I can't think of any. To me, the person I was back in the UK was, I had a very good, stable employment. Working from 9 till 5, having the weekends to myself. And it was only once I came out, and I knew there was more I wanted to do. I know I wanted to be able to have my own business. I knew I wanted to be able to feel like, I'm my own man, as it were. And there were so many things that were like, there's so many glass ceilings between where I was and where I wanted to be. I felt that it was now impossible to do that. And so coming over to the Gambia, it forced me to expand my mind and my way of thinking, and conversing with my inner voice about what's possible, what's not possible, which was great for me. So that allowed me to be able to become the person that I am today. So I'm very grateful for moving over. I'm very grateful to Gambia and the people of Gambia, and this whole journey has helped me to be able to grow so much. So there's no negatives that I can think of about coming over to Gambia.
I like that. You're just absorbing the challenges like they're normal, right?
Well, you know what? It's like, the way I see it, it's kind of, you have in the West, I was stressed out. Here, I'm busy. All right, I'm busy. Yes, I have things going on. Yes, but there are things that can be handled. The stresses I have here can be handled. Whereas the things that are going on in the UK, it was like, I'm driving my car and then I've gone 3 miles an hour over the speed limit, and then I get a ticket in the mail, or I park somewhere and I've parked there 10 minutes too long and I get a ticket in the mail, or something where it's just like, I've got these stresses going on that are continuous and consistent. Whereas here in the Gambia, I don't feel stressed. You know, I have challenges, I have problems, there's things that are difficulties that I have to deal with, but they're not things that I sit there and think, well, I'm really stressed now. No, it's good here. It's good here.
Wow. I have a question for Ambe and you, Molly, because both of y'all coming from the West, and Molly, you had touched on it a little bit earlier, talking about the police situation, how that kind of got on your nerves. You were done with that, and I know Ambe, you lived here, you kind of grew up here in the U.S. Um, Talk about that, like the difference in whatever you experienced in the UK or the US, in that area with dealing with law enforcement, or I know you already kind of mentioned a little bit about it, Molly, but yeah, if you guys have anything else to share on that, like I'm curious to know.
No, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot we can say on that because the U.S. You speak politically. A lot of people call it America KKA. And it's just because the way that the police relate to black men and the black community in general. So I want to get into a lot of my own experiences with the police. A young black man growing up in the U.S. You can't say that you didn't have one or two encounters to know what it is. Racial profiling is a reality. I mean, you'll be a black man in the wrong community, they will approach you and ask you why you were there. And just because you're black, that's just something that we have to admit. We've seen what the media has portrayed to us. Truthfully, George Floyd, rest in peace, Trayvon Martin. We could go down the line, Breonna Taylor, all want to deviate into all of that, but that's the reality we have of the West of America. Now we want to contrast that with Ghana, with Africa. And I'll be honest, I've been in social media platforms where diasporians have kind of reacted to what I call social logic. I want to use that word and throw it in quotes because people coming back from the West want to say that police enforcement in Africa is corrupt. And I want to throw that word again also in quotes. You see, they see that police here are laid back. They're not actually looking for misdemeanor crimes. That's the way I'm going to say it. Police in the African context are actually looking for bad guys. In Ghana, when the police hear there's banditry, that's what they're concerned about. They're not really going to make it a priority to break you by the road over maybe changing lanes without using your traffic light and things of that nature. Though, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's not law enforcement. There are cameras at the stoplights. If you run a red light, I actually made an accident where I did run a red light. Police officer flagged me. We had to do the little discussion and all of that, but we were able to come to what I would say is an understanding. Literally, there's a social logic that I would say exists in Africa, where law enforcement plays the priority. I'm going to say it again, of focusing on serious, heinous crimes, banditry. There are a lot of diasporians and even the Africans in general who are citizens and nationals have to admit that there is a way where we have a more open way of discussing with police officers when we get into certain situations that in the Western context, they would look at it as being too personal a relationship with the police officer, that police officers are breaching protocols. And I know that all of us will understand what I'm trying to say with the grammar that I'm trying to use. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people have come back to realize it, and even Africans themselves, they appreciate that you have that latitude, negotiate with a police officer and be like, okay, I recognize I made my fault. It was not intentional, it won't happen again. Let us understand this situation and let me settle the government the way that I can right now so that I can catch up with my business, and that you can continue to look for the real criminals out there. So we don't have racial profiling. We don't have police officers looking to get you into trouble to mess up your life, because I don't think in the cultural context of what we are as Africans, we think that that's what law enforcement and policing is about. It's not about looking for problems to put people down. It's about being able to keep the community together. Let me give an example, right? Back in Cameroon, I have a cousin who was, we don't have problems with hard drugs here. We don't have cocaine and meth and all of that. But we have some guys who, when they take a little bit of cannabis, they will misbehave because, emotional issues and stuff. So I had a cousin who got himself, I'm going to say, addicted to marijuana in that context because he wasn't keeping his life organized. Now, my auntie, she took him to police and explain to them that she feels her son is going wayward. Instead of them booking him and sending him to prison and giving him like 2-3 years, staining his record so that he'll never get a job, they took him like, you know, like in a family context. Young man, if you continue with this type of behavior, you don't want to be in our prison system because you can get lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock you in this art cell here for like 1, 2, 3 days, kind of like, you know, let you get a feeling of what you would get thrown into. And if your mother feels that you're not rehabilitating, then we can do this regularly. That you can actually decide now to make a decision to not go down that path so that this becomes an official problem. So you see that, I mean, there's a social orientation that we allow ourselves to engage with law enforcement that allows our communities to feel protected and recognize that it's not about destroying us and being at antagonism with the government. Now, some individuals will interpret that as not being the strict protocol that they want. But like I said, we're Africans, and that's how we are. It allows us to evolve. Let me not belabor that discussion because some people think that I'm using word salad, but it is what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that. I mean, I appreciate your honest opinion, and you know. So what I heard is it's like a common understanding. It's almost you have an opportunity to reason with law enforcement, and rather than be put in a risky situation where you might almost lose your life as we experience as being Black in America. So and engaging with the law enforcement.
Because the truth in African culture is that if you wind up in court, it means you were really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Any other comments?
Yeah. I think that
hi.
the relationship I have with the police over here is 180 degrees to the relationship I have with the police back in the UK.
Left.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, my relationship is completely different. I find that the police over here, for the most part, I see them at checkpoints on the roads. They have different checkpoints. And 9 times out of 10, it's the handshake, it's how are you, have a good day, and we keep it pushing. There was one time I was in the car and they pulled over this European man, and they were asking him, they were checking his car out and looking for anything that shouldn't be there in the car. So I drove past and I turned around and I gave a very disapproving look. I was shaking my head and all this sort of thing, just like they used to do to me back in England, which made me feel so good. I must admit, I'm petty like that. It made me feel real good to know that the police knew when they looked for those bad guys, they knew what to look for. So I have a much better relationship with law enforcement over here. It's more like a law service rather than law enforcement. They're here to service the community rather than enforce anything. So it's a much nicer relationship.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that perspective. I believe Kola had something to say. Kola, is that correct? I don't want to put you on the spot. I know he's.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. Did you have something you wanted to speak on? I know he's traveling right now, so we'll move on. So next question would be, what do you miss
Hello,
the
can you hear
least?
me?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Okay, I said I just wanted to contribute. I'm saying that it's quite exciting hearing various dimensions and aspects of the lives of these fellows that is on the call today. A few comments. Yes, I just wanted to agree with the last speaker in terms of our socialization, in terms of our encounters with the police. You know, for Ghana, where I've lived all my life, I was born here and everything. Um, there's a high level of socialization in terms of the way people see things that has to do with criminality and all the issues that have been raised. It's quite very important because we are first and foremost interested in reformative processes, and that is why the police, but it's going to see how best we can reform that person to a better understanding of the system themselves. That is quite very important. So even though there's been a lot of impact in terms of Western socialization because of the global nature of the of societies now, we still retain a high level of communal lifestyle. And so, like the guy said, before you really end up in now, I'm just interested in one question to the Gambians, especially Amina and the other guy who's in Gambia. I'm just curious to find out what is the land tenure system. How is it easy to acquire land in Gambia? Because for us in Ghana, lands are actually either invested in the chiefs. And we do know one of the biggest hassles that the diasporans face when they come and they are trying to repatriate is access to land. So my question, how easy is it to buy land in Gambia?
Mina?
Well, I mean, what can I say? It's easier. I think Gambia is one of the easiest West African countries to acquire land. On my experience, being a diasporan and being a Gambian also, I've had quite a lot of people, friends, family that actually come back home and actually acquired land. I'm not sure how they acquire it in Ghana or different parts of Africa, but it's through the alcalo of the area where you want to acquire land. That's I think that's the process how it goes about. It's not difficult at all to get land over here, but saying that as well, there are quite a few property land agents and companies who actually will do that process for you, and it's pretty straightforward. It's not hard at all to acquire land in the Gambia. But saying that now, prices are going up, and they are getting a lot more expensive as time goes on. So I just, emphasize that people should, like, you know, if they want land in the Gambia, or say in West Africa or in Africa in general, to actually get it now, because it is going up every single year, and a lot as well. So that's my piece of advice. But it's not hard to get land in Gambia at all compared to different parts of Africa.
That's hilarious because, in my experience, the complete opposite. It's very hard to get land. It's kind of like it depends on like who you are. I think there was a man who came here the other day. A customer came here, and he's a Gambian brother, and he acquired land, 1,000 meters by 980 meters. Huge plot. It works out like hectares. And he said he was given that land on the proviso that he provided some boreholes for the village. So he was given land. So that to me is wonderful. Whereas myself, as a non-Gambian, we had a lot of work to do to. Sorry, one second. Whereas for myself, it took a lot of work to be able to go through the whole process of speaking to the Akalu, getting that the Akalu is the chief of the area, to getting his agreement or his paperwork to say that I've acquired land in there, and then to go and take that and use that to register that purchase with the government. Took a long time. It took around about a year for me to do. And well, I've heard from friends who are acquiring land now, the process is taking like a year and a half for them to actually get the land. So it can take some time. It's not 100% straightforward. There's some difficulties included in that. I hope that gives you a good answer, even though I haven't actually been too specific.
That was a great answer. That was a great answer. Before we continue on this conversation, I want to take the time and share a short video. We'll watch it together, and then we'll come back with commentary. We're getting ready to wrap up. So just bear with us here. Again, remember, you can call in at 803-814-3622 if you are in the U.S., and +1 803-814-3622 on WhatsApp if you're anywhere else in the world. So just for a quick second, I'd like to share a video with you all. So just hang tight.
You're not saying nothing that everybody don't feel. That don't necessarily mean it's true. Right. But with the circumstances that surround us, that's why we believe that way. So at the end of the day, it was like, if you are in a position in life where you feel like you don't own your own content, you don't own anything, and they should be investing in us, this is the opportunity now to be able to own that in which we're complaining about. Because in Africa, it's a clean slate. You can build that empire there. You can build that infrastructure there. And you already got the information. You're already educated on how to do it, because we've done it here and made billions of dollars for corporations all day. Africa is the only place in the world where Black people can go and build Fortune 500 companies from scratch within 5 years.
It'd be like China, easily.
No, seriously. And this took them hundreds of years to build. You can build it now within 5 years. China took that same, mind state 25 years ago. China was no different from Africa 25 years ago. Go to China now. Look at Dubai, the Middle East. They just started 15 years ago and started building that same concept.
I'm kind of, me, just want to be 100%. I understand what you exactly mean. So you're saying that Africa right now, so how can Africa be the new China? How can we say that? So
Black people.
For all our Black people, yes.
Go back to Africa.
Okay.
Whatever you're doing here, do it there. Whether it's real estate, entertainment, education,
label, sneaker company,
whatever,
clothing line,
whatever.
Start it there.
Do it there. Don't even start it. Do it there. It's going to grow out of there anyway. But Africa's big enough you won't ever have to need no other country anyway. Think about it. Everything you do is in America.
Hot in Africa.
No, you don't.
Well, it depends on, you said
Africa's the second biggest continent in the world. Africa. It's over 1 billion people.
Who's the biggest continent? Europe? Who's the biggest continent?
Well, it's continent and country.
Asia is the biggest continent.
Asia, that's then China, Africa. Korea.
It's all them, Russia, and India, all them put together though.
Right.
That makes Asia.
Right.
And it's not that much bigger than Africa. And Africa is the second biggest continent.
Wow. With more natural resources as well.
With all the natural resources.
Right.
That's the difference. So we literally got a pot of gold and nobody even going for it.
Exploited by outsiders.
So how do we start this? How do we start to say, you know what, let's invest back in the motherland?
I think the key is, first of all, you got to release the fear, because a lot of African Americans are afraid to go to Africa.
No, because I'm not gonna lie.
Which naturally,
I was offered so many shows to Africa. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, and then they told me I could get shots, and I was like,
mm-hmm.
And I've never actually been to Africa because I didn't want to get the shots. I didn't know they injecting shit in me. But I was scared. Mm. This is back in the day.
That's why I said you got to release the fear.
Got to release the fear.
You have to, because first of all, only white people need shots to go to Africa. Black people don't need no shots to go to Africa.
But why is that even a rumor that you need shots to go to Africa?
I mean, it's fear. The same way they told you AIDS started in Africa. You could die from malaria. They're telling you all this stuff. None of that stuff is real.
Wow.
They tell you, well, you go to Africa, take, shots. And you got to take like 5 or 6 different, types of shots to save you from this, save you from that, save you from this.
Why does that rumor even exist, though?
I mean, because they know the value of black people going back home. Can you just imagine if African Americans in America decided, you know what, man, fuck America, we going back home, and then all the value that we bring here, we took over there. America wouldn't exist no more.
Club Live, Zumanda,
none of that would work. Think about it. Just imagine, man. All the major ball players left, started their own team back home. All the major recording artists left, started their own labels back home. Just imagine, just those 2 sectors. We're not talking about all the inventors that never got the credit for all the shit that they inventing, like cell phones and all that black people invented. You would never even know. All these software companies that's taking, you have no idea. Like, we don't even know how much value we even have. We have no idea. Just imagine if we just woke up one day.
Gotta wake up with you.
Pause.
That's real, man. That's real.
Just think about it.
That's real, man. That's real, man.
Because collectively, we got enough to do it. We don't have to buy or borrow anything from nobody. We can do it ourselves if we just came together to do it.
That's such a beautiful thing. I really would like to be involved in something like that. I want to invest in Africa. I want to invest in Black Rock City of Africa.
So, yeah. The misconceptions that we're told, the lies we're told to keep us from going home. The doubt, the fear mongering, the implanting ideas that it can't work or it's dream killing for some. But that's why in Sankofa, we always talk about the need to educate yourselves. It's always it all starts with education. But I'm so glad to have all of us here together to talk about some of these misconceptions and misrepresentations, and for you all to share your own personal experiences, because it helps those that may be considering going, repatriating. It gives them a little bit more reason to educate themselves and do a little self-study on what can possibly be, because it like you said, it's like a pot of gold sitting there. We don't need anyone. We can make it happen. Whatever we're doing here, we can duplicate that there and do it better, because it's all going to come out of there anyway and filter right back onto everywhere else on the planet. So I really appreciate all of you coming on. We are wrapping up. And before we go, I'd like us all to go around and see, are there any final comments, final words, sum up the best advice for those of you that joined us today, Molly, Amina, Ambe, any final words about what one should consider before repatriating back to Africa? Before you go, what should you know?
Let me just go ahead and start, and then anybody can jump on my back, because I'm going to piggyback off of what Akon actually was saying, and I'm going to reinterpret it from my last remarks, looking at it in the context of that. Like he said, people coming back is basically the reparation of that 500 years of us being disenfranchised. So it's important, because in that 500 years, we were instant contributing to Western development. That's why you see the West is the way it is. So we've come now to a point where we actually consciously realize that we can start putting that labor now back into the continent, bringing that human resource back. Then truthfully, Year of Africa Returned, economically, if I'm not mistaken, I think they said it generated $2 billion for Ghana. So it shows the potential of wealth from the diasporans and what it can actually amount to if it's properly invested in the continent. Now, but making that proper investment is going to require you to do your feasibility. I think that's the most important thing. Come in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however you can, until you have enough understanding of the environment to be able to come in and make your potential investment and get yourself set up. But it's just the reality of what it is. We need to start healing that wound of 500 years. And like Brother Akon said it, the way to do it, 100 years ago, Honorable Marcus Garvey was very clear. And I don't think that plan of strategy has ever changed or ever been defaulted in its solution. Come back to Africa. Truthfully, this is the motherland. We are definitely have our arms open. Anybody wants to come back, put it in Sankofa. Go back and get it. You will definitely find yours.
Thank you, Brother Ambe. Any other final comments?
I think I would say, look, it's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius to come to Africa. You don't have to be some super spiritual, extra black person to come here. You just need to be black, and you need to just have a love of yourself. That's all you need. If you're put off by the idea of studying before coming here, check it out. Don't study, just check it out. Come and have a look. See how you feel. See what works with you, what doesn't work with you. If you can't decide which country you want to go to, get a map and stick a pin. Close your eyes and pick one. Just as long as you make the movement. That's my advice. When you come over to Africa, come over not with a mind to, I've come to help, because you're one person. Africa is huge. You, one person, cannot help this massive continent. Before you change this continent will change you. So come here with some humility, come here looking to learn, and come here with a mind of how you can invest in the motherland. And believe this, that as you invest in the motherland, she will invest in you. And just enjoy that growth that you get from being over here. Go for that and see how you get on. But the first thing is actually making a step. Making that first move is the first thing.
Make the step. I love that. Mina, you have any final comments?
Yeah. As Molly was saying, yeah. I mean, when I moved over finally, November last year, I had my doubts. I'm like, what? Am I doing the right thing? Going back home, I've got deep roots in the Gambia, like my family and everything like that. But I was, as I said, born and raised in the West, so it was something that was very new to me. But my advice to anybody coming over is to actually come over on not just one visit. One visit won't do it for you. You need to come and see for yourself 2-3 times to see exactly what you want to do in here and how the system works, because as I said, it's very, very different from the West, and a lot of people find that daunting. They can't actually take the slow pace of Africa, of Gambia. But once you do that step, it's great. And I wouldn't be anywhere else. I wouldn't, because when I was back in UK, I dreaded getting up in the morning to go to work. But now I have the birds singing, I have the sunshine, and I have a smile on my face. That alone is enough, knowing that I'm back on the continent with my people. Make the move, come on visits, and take it from there, and you won't regret it. That's my advice.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And I want to big up your business. Amina can be reached at Amina can be reached at Amina, AMINA _A_ soap and candles. That's her IG handle, Amina _A_ soap and candles. So everything is homemade. She uses ingredients from her farm. And please check her out. And if you're in the Gambia, check out Molly's restaurant, Jadon's. So please, one other thing I want to remind everyone before we turn it on over to Elder to address our ancestors who are there or here with us in spirit, always with us. And we want to thank our Twitter family, our YouTube family, our Facebook family for tuning in today. But I also want to let you all know that Sankofa will be hosting a mission trip to the Pearl of Africa. So we'll be going to Kampala, Uganda in January of 2023. If you're interested in coming along on that trip with us, you can go to our website, and that is www.sacklife.com. Again, www.sacclife.com. And Thank you all. And remember, May 29th, Sunday, May 29th, from 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have a webathon. That's 8 hours of fun, talent, speakers. We got some spoken word. We got a reggae artist. It's going to be out of sight. So I hope that you all can join us. Again, we have set a goal of $5,000, excuse me, for the quarter. So if you can contribute, I don't care if it's 50 cents, a dollar, or whatever, what have you, it's going to help support some of the projects that we're involved with, and also help fund a portion of our mission trip for all our missionaries that decide to come along and go with us. So thank you all today for tuning in. And before we close on out, Elder, I'm going to turn it over to you for final comments. And please, please, let's address our ancestors. We thank them. We love them. We appreciate their guidance and wisdom.
Thank you all for being here. Again, happy Mother's Day to all. For without them, there would be none of us. One important thing that I was reminded of as I sit back and I listen is the greatest evil that we have today is ignorance. But it hasn't changed. It's always been that way. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, ignorance is our greatest evil and our greatest enemy. As I heard talk from the beginning about the young man, it doesn't matter the messenger or the message. We're all called to hear what we hear, see what we see, and know what we know, and take from what we see and hear, and deal with it accordingly. We don't have to be moved one way or the other unless we choose to. But that's where, as Queen E.B. had said in the beginning, getting to know yourself. And that's what brings us to this segment about repatriation. Know yourself and know what you need and want before you worry about going somewhere else or doing something different. Make your own decision. And that only comes from clarity. And clarity comes from educating yourself to know what it is you really want to do. And as the panelists have said, come and take a visit. It's important because it will dispel a lot of the myths and the hypes and the lies that have been told about the continent. But it'll also help you to make an educated decision and choice of what you want to do with your life. And that's what brings us full circle, as we say, Sankofa, back to our ancestors, because they did a lot to get us to this point. No matter where we are on this planet, it's nothing but life. Life comes from life, and life will return to life. So as we have shared this moment with you, we've also shared it with our ancestors. We thank them for coming and being with us and joining with us. We pray they would always uplift us and guide us, and that we would just not just have them there for us, but we honestly take the time to connect and hear what they have to say, because it's just like a part of our education. We can go to class, but if we don't listen and we don't learn, what was the purpose? What was the point? They're always talking. They're always with us. We just have to give them that time. As I heard it expressed, life is a little bit slower there, but that's only because people have found it to their advantage to push us and rush us. When you're pushed and forced into something, you don't have time to stop and gather your wits and your thoughts to really make the best decision. And this is what gives us that opportunity as we take the time to talk about all the different situations and experiences and issues and instances in life. As we're living today, we have that opportunity to take our time and hear what other people who've done these things have to say about it and weigh it accordingly. So again, we thank our ancestors, we thank our panelists, we thank all mothers, and we pray they continue to walk with us, walk not just before us, but beside us, behind us, guide us and nourish us, help us to help the next one and those who we encounter. So we thank them, and for all people, we say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe, ashe,
Ashe.
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 Ashe. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Twitter family. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, YouTube. And we will be back Sunday, May 29th, same time, same place. Or excuse me, actually not the same time. It'll be 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check your time zone where you are. And every first Sunday of every month, join us here for Serious Sundays, where we talk about current events, things that impact the lives of Africans everywhere, Africans just like me, you. So thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm.